Hi, my name is Ken Schwartz of Precise Sharpening, and what I'm going to be doing in this video is demonstrating one of the Nubatama stones. This is a 2000 grit Ume Nubatama. Now this is a more recent addition to the series. As you can see, it's the 2000 grit Nubatama, and it's of the Ume or plum series. So what I'm going to be doing with this particular stone, it's sort of an olive colored stone, or khaki-ish, light olive kind of color. May wind up being called an olive brick of joy, but we will see. My first impression of the stone. I'd like to, first I'll start doing some of the porosity testing. My initial first impression, when you feel it, very smooth, very silky smooth. It is reminiscent somewhat of some of the Coarser, Naniwa type stones in this grit. But we'll see. You know, let's see what this turns out to be like. So let's start off with just a spray to see how it absorbs the spray. Okay, so pretty much as predicted. Good bit slower rate of absorption than some of the coarser stones. It does still absorb. So this is pretty much close to a splash and go. Alright, let's give it a little bit of a soaking while I'm talking, just to get things going a little bit. So, okay, so some of the, I feel that this stone will probably be an important stone, first of all because of the role that a 2K stone has. You'll see a lot of people that will go from 1K to 5 or 6K. I feel it's important to have that middle grit between the 1K and the 5K. I feel that 1Ks are extremely important. Quite often, and this is what I'll be using this stone for in this video, this stone should make for an excellent stone for a knife that's in service that doesn't require an extreme edge as a touch-up. So you'll find that this will probably be useful in a similar role like you see in a number of sushi bars who use King 1500 stones. And this should work quite well in that role as a touch-up stone and as an intermediate stone to go on to finer grits. So let's see how the water is holding. Okay, quite well. So this is, I would call this a splash and go stone. The main reason that I brought this stone in is because we have a 2000 grit in the bamboo series. It's a somewhat exotic stone in the sense that it's something in the order of almost twice the price of this stone, or around twice the price. It's an exceptional stone. But in the Ume series, I wanted something a little more affordable to fit in there. So far, first impressions, I'm very much liking the way the stone handles water, how it feels, very smooth. So let's talk a little bit about the knives that I'm going to be using on this. One is a, pardon the overspray here, this is a Sugimoto. It's a short cleaver. It's about the size of a carry, but as you can see, it's a thicker knife. It's a white steel, carbon steel knife. This knife is also carbon steel. It's a Hankotsu, which is flat on this side and has a single bevel over here. And then we'll do a stainless steel knife This is a 330 millimeter Tojiro or Tojiro stainless steel knife. So let's get going with this and see how things work. Alright, so we'll start off with this one and find the angle. So right about there. You can tell by an edge leading stroke when it starts to grab the stone. Okay, so see how this feels. Alright. Very silky smooth sort of feeling. Let's see for a second how this works with less water on it. Just push the water off. Okay. Now, some people have commented about me not flattening stones when I do these videos, and the reason is twofold. One is that it's a first impressions type video. I will probably be doing additional videos in the future using these stones in combination. Not quite that far yet. Okay, we are getting some mud coming off the stone. So this is, now the reason that I decreased the water was to get a higher grit density in the slurry as I'm using it. And because it does seem to hold its water pretty well. Very pleasurable stone to use. Has that silky smooth sort of feeling. Let's do the other side a little bit. Again, coming up about right there. Okay. So I would rate this medium hardness, good general purpose type stone. And you can see when it's wet, it's more of a full olive or darker khaki green type color. So we are developing a little bit of mud at this point. I think this is a pretty optimal water level to be running this stone at. Okay, so that's what the mud is looking like. Let's wipe off some of the mud. Give this a quick rinse. Dry it off and get a look at what this is looking like. Again, the edge on this was decent, but it's been used a fair bit. And it is a white steel knife, so that's to get a sense of where we are performance-wise. All right, slice cut, not a problem whatsoever. Push cut, close in, very good. A little further out, right about there. Okay, so that's a fair bit sharper than it was. It was originally not push cutting. let's look at the bevel itself. And we have not a highly polished mirror, but a mirror finish at 2K. Again, a very effective touch-up for carbon steel. So now we're going to look at this knife. This is a Hankotsu, as I mentioned, flat on one side, convex bevel on the other. This is used for heavy butchery. I also find it's a very elegant knife to use as a steak knife, but unfortunately as a steak knife you wind up cutting on plates, and that does dull it out a little bit. So as you can see, not quite a push cutter. Okay, so it will slice initially. Well, barely, not even. So let's give this a shot. See how we're doing. A little more water, not a lot. Let's do a stroke or two on the back to get things going. And what I do is lay it down flat, bring it up just a slight bit, just to keep from scratching the back side, to remove any burr that may have formed during its usage. And you can see what the mud looks like. You got a very interesting khaki olive sort of shade. So again, we're going to go up to that angle. Let's do a few edge trailing strokes to sort of get our groove here. And I can feel that there is a little bit of mud left on from the previous knife, and that's giving it yet an additional degree of smoothness to work with here. So yeah, this is a stone you could spend all day on. It's very comfortable, very enjoyable stone. You can feel it digging into the stone ever so slightly on an edge leading stroke at this angle, which increases the mud density when you do that. Very pleasurable stone to work with. I really like this. Okay, get a little touch on the back. And let's see how we're doing. I tend to not like to waste mud. Now I'll also mention that I use these towels. One of the reasons that I wipe off with these towels is that they really are very hygroscopic and draw the water off very thoroughly. And this does influence testing, because if you cut with either wet paper or a wet knife, you get erroneous results. All right. Okay, a little bit of an improvement there. Not quite up to push cutting. So let's work this a little bit more. Again, a little more density on the mud, a little more pressure. This knife seems to be a little bit duller than I thought it would be. If you do go too steep, it does seem like it will grab the stone and cut it a little bit. So I would consider this a somewhat soft stone. Let's add a little more water. Okay, let's try this a little bit more. Alright, slice cutting, considerably improved. Push cutting, we're there. Okay, so this push cut's not quite at a distance, but close in. Close in push cutter. A little further out. And I might mention sometimes that after you've done a knife like this and you're using it for general purpose, a quick stropping on a piece of paper will also bring the edge performance up a little bit. And I could probably demonstrate this over this dry part of the stone for a second. So, stropping like that. And along the back, just a little bit. Now let's see how that reacts. Okay. So push cutting at 2K is a pretty reasonable performance objective. Knife is sharper for its intended purpose. I would consider that a final finish for that particular knife. Let's continue on, doing one more knife. So again, this is the Tojiro. It's a 330mm knife, long knife. Just needs a touch-up. The edge is fairly good already. So let's bring this up just a little bit there. Okay, and what I tend to do is, rather than sectional, I do sweeps. So I try to match the length of the knife to the length of the stone, so that by the time I get to the end of the stone, I've done the full sweep of the knife. So let's do a few strokes like that. Now, if I do all edge trailing, it tends to pool the water towards the bottom of the stone. Again, we're working on a stainless steel knife. So I want to show that this stone should be a versatile stone for both carbon and stainless steel knives. Not 100% sure on the Tojiro, but I do believe that it is probably a VG10 type steel or something very similar with a Rockwell hardness about 60, 61. I know for a home cook, a 330 millimeter knife seems to be a bit long, but I find that it's an extremely useful knife for me, especially for initial prep work, opening up packages, cutting 5 romaine heads in a row, doing things like cutting watermelons, and using it as a slicer just because of its length, or like a sushi. Like a sushi with more knuckle clearance. So, yeah, in my hands I find this a very versatile knife. And just for variety's sake, I'll show you a way that I do sectionals, but as a continuous sectional. I'll do a sectional where I'll do a W pattern, where I come down and then up and down and up. So this allows me to work a blade at a constant angle and maintain a bevel angle so that I'm not doing something sectional and having to connect sections together. This is useful on a long knife. It's particularly useful on a long knife that is being used on a very small stone. Obviously on this stone I have the opportunity to do single sweeps pretty easily. Again, the single sweep motion is following the length of the knife matching the stone. Okay, let's see how this is doing. All right, and look at the finish. And the finish is a slightly matted mirror type finish on this. Slightly matted mirror finish on this. Let's see what it feels like with a piece of paper. Okay. Slicing performance very good. Just in the range of push cutting. Again, a very good general purpose stone to use in the 2000 grit range. I hope you enjoyed the video. Appreciate your comments. And this stone is now available at Chef Knives To Go. Thank you very much for your time and attention.